how are you? Welcome everyone to the Leaders of Leader podcast. My name is Diana Daniels, and I am part of YPO Greater Europe. I'm also CEO and founder of Chorus Group, working in telecommunications, labor, and financial inclusion. It is my pleasure today to be hosting the Leader of Leader podcast, where I am so happy to be sharing this platform with my friend, Fred Mouawad. He is a global citizen, portfolio entrepreneur, and founder of Synergia One Group companies that operates like in 16 countries and in several industries that encompass gems, jewelry, and with Mouawad Diamond Manufacturing with the Premier Diamond Alliance. They're also involved in food manufacturing with Sinova, software as a service with Taskworld, publishing with the Smart Work Media, and video on demand with the CI Talks, which, by the way, are amazing. He's also a part of the founding of the LED Global Franchise Architects, a food service company with 5 brands that expanded to 240 stores throughout 7 countries. With all this experience, he's also incubating and growing several ventures international and managing a portfolio for several companies. Fred has developed a comprehensive management system that supports each of the individual companies, while simultaneously he is seeking for synergies across the portfolio. I not only admire this man, but I admire what he has done in his career. So welcome, Fred. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much, Diana. It's a pleasure. And by the way, you're a great YPO member. So glad you joined. And I see you making an impact right away. So congratulations.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you. You're the super guilty one on this one. But listen, Fred, as a 4th-generation co-guardian of Mouawad, your family jewelry business, it is incredible of what you have done already in and outside of the industry. I would love you to walk us through the journey on why did you choose to expand beyond this industry and try new ventures?
I think it's predominantly because I'm a creative person. I like the challenge of coming up with a concept and executing on it. I don't like to just dream, but I like to also do and create a business out of it. But my journey started at a young age. In fact, when I finished my undergraduate studies, I had studied business in the US, then I studied gemology. And my first job at 21 was working for the family business. And at the time, it was in 1990. We had the first Gulf War. So I was told by my father, why don't you go and manage the factory that we have in Thailand? So at the time, he had just let go of the general manager. So I came in at 21 in a country I had not known. I had visited as a tourist, but I did not know much about it. And I was in charge of a factory with 250 people and 20 expats. And that's how I learned. But I remember, I did not come in with a sense of entitlement. I came in with a learner's mindset. I studied every single position in the factory. I identified opportunities for improvement. I put a system in place, a quality control system in place that led to significant improvements in our output of production and also in the quality of our goods. And what's interesting is that we're still using the same principles. The same system that I put in place when I was 21 is still being used in the factory here in Thailand. So I worked for about 3 years in the family business until I realized that somehow I was constrained in the sense that my father was still making all the key decisions at the time. He wasn't willing to delegate enough. And as such, I decided to go to business school as a transition. And after business school, I started building my own businesses. So I started with a coffee chain in Thailand, a pizza chain in India. I started with a venture capital firm with 2 friends from business school. We raised a 50 million euro fund back then. I started a .com, and that's how my entrepreneurial journey started until 2010, when my father decided to retire from the business and hand over the jewelry business to myself and my brother. So we're the 4th generation. The business was founded in 1890. So for the last 12 years, we've been looking at the family business, making it more relevant and adapting to the marketplace, which is changing rapidly. In the last, I would say 20 plus years, actually a lot more now, 30 years, I'm 53. And so I've built a number of different businesses in different countries. And my passion is the building phase of a business and the people around it, and coming up with a product or service that adds value to the marketplace. That's really where my passion lies.
So, like, you moved to Bangkok, and all this success that you're established with your family and these other businesses is just remarkable. What will be like 3 takeaways for those who are establishing new business away from their home countries? How do you do it? What it will be something that you, let's say, are paramount for success?
I think you have to ask yourself three key questions. The first one is, do you really want to expand? In the sense that for what purpose? What's the objective? Are you trying to make more money? Are you trying to leverage the existing assets that you have in a specific geography? Because no matter what, when you expand, you're going to stretch your resources. So in many cases, when people expand outside of their countries, they realize that the context is different, that their brand may not be as well known in a new country. The market and consumers behave differently in another country. They sometimes underestimate the partnership they get into. They may think the partner may add more value, or they may not be able to retain that relationship. So there are a number of factors one should consider before even deciding whether it makes sense for them to go overseas. The second one is, do you have a scalable business? And I'll give you an example. In the jewelry business, when we sell in the very high end, then we have to ourselves go guardians of our family business. We need to build these relationships with VIP clients. And so how scalable is this? Of course, we cannot be in every city building these relationships at multiple levels. So when it comes to the masterpieces, high jewelry sales, the relationships are important, and it's less scalable than selling a collection, marketing a collection, and selling a collection at lower price points. The same for a food service business. You may have a small, successful chain of restaurants in your city, but then can you really expand that elsewhere in another country? So some elements of your business are scalable and others aren't. In the sense that with a restaurant, you may be able to scale your know-how, your operating system, but not necessarily your team. You'll have to hire a new team on the ground, and that means that you can't leverage that. Your brand may be known in your city or in your market, but it may not be known in a new market, and therefore you may have to spend a lot more marketing dollars. So there are a number of factors you have to consider. And the third one is, if you really go overseas, it becomes, who do you have on the ground? You know, who's going to represent your business? Are you going to partner with someone? Will you build a team? And if you're going to build a team, that's going to take time. And so you really need to have a mid to long-term horizon if you really want to expand outside of your country, because it boils down to the team and their capabilities, and you have to localize the team. And there are certain things that you can transfer and others that you can't.
You know, and I guess that this is perfect for my next question, because sometimes we give for granted teams. You know, I'm also an expat. I'm Mexican that moved to the US, and then from the US, I moved to Spain. I'm now, you know, I have a big team in Barcelona as well, and I have teams in everywhere. In many cases, we forget that cultural change and shock that can cause. So what clues are important for selecting teams while you are abroad working and scaling up international? What can you give us as your insight?
You know, one of my key insights, having operated in multiple countries, is culture. And when we think of culture, a lot of people think about the corporate culture. But for me, it's the country culture that determines very much how people behave, what their values are. So in every country, you're going to have elements that will impact how people think. The religion will have an impact on their thinking. Traditions that they have in their local market will impact their thinking. So, for example, in many of the Asian countries, one of the country values is to really keep a good relationship with your peers. Therefore, when you put somebody in a leadership position, they feel quite uncomfortable because they lose that equality, they lose the friendships. And so very few people want to be the leader of their friends, right? They would rather value friendship at the team level rather than being leaders. So in certain countries, you're going to have a much harder time nurturing leaders and really succeeding in that role. At the country level, another one that's typical is whether speaking up honestly and raising problems, surfacing opportunities when they arise, whether it's accepted culturally. In many Asian countries, the boss cannot lose face. So you cannot go to the boss and say you did something wrong, or we think we're not going in the right direction. So people tend to stay quiet. So this is where you have to start building the company culture. How can you start shaping your own company culture? So if people don't speak up in a country, how can you, if you think it's important for them to speak up, how can you teach them and how can you encourage them to speak up and be a lot more transparent? So that's an example. And then you have your subculture on teams. So for me, operating in many countries, you have the corporate culture that may have certain values that you want people to embrace in multiple countries, but ultimately you have to really understand the country culture and adapt it to the local markets.
Super interesting, because you just point out like very key examples that definitely will affect the complete business if not managed correctly. So can you share with us like a few resources on how would you recommend someone that is looking to gain insight into becoming a better leader while they're scaling their businesses, like specifically in this matter on teams? What resources you can share with us?
I suggest that you learn. And I think as YPO members, we all believe in lifelong learning. So the first thing one should do is say, what I know works in my country may not work in another country. And therefore, you have to find someone local, a local team, ask a lot of questions, reassess your own hypothesis about how to run a business, how to even communicate with people. And ideally, you want to start working through local people that can guide you through the local culture. And you want to listen and ask lots of questions about what's the best way of doing it. And then you have to just do it and then figure things out. But just having that open mindset is critical.
Love it. So, Fred, are you ready? We are in this time of my rapid fire questions. So remember, you just need to answer whatever comes to your mind. Here we go.
I'm ready.
So are you a morning or a night person?
Night.
You're one of mine. Yeah. So what is the best compliment that you ever received?
Actually, I'm afraid of compliments because I think people that compliment frequently may not always be the most honest. So I must admit that when I receive a compliment, I think about it twice in general.
Oh my God, I know. Okay, so what is the most important thing you've learned through your career?
The most important thing I've learned as leaders to always reassess, reflect, and really grow ourselves. Sometimes we fail to evolve as our business evolves. And I think this is the biggest challenge we have. We have to constantly figure our role and how we can keep on adding value on that journey. I see a lot of leaders that get stuck in a routine. And that routine is actually what prevents them from actually scaling their impact and being a lot more effective. So for me, it's how do you on your journey keep on evolving based on the requirements of your business? Who should you surround yourself with? And what knowledge are you lacking? What else should you be learning in order to keep on growing as a person, as a leader?
I see it. I would love to know, well, you have still young kids. So how will they describe what you do for a living?
Well, I've got a son that's 25 and a daughter that's 13. The 13-year-old daughter may say, well, my father sells beautiful jewelry to kings and queens and celebrities. That's probably what you would say.
We forgot to say, and I've always admired this. Your jewels, actually, they're always showcasing every Miss Universe, right?
Yeah, we also sponsor the Miss Universe crown. Yes, we've been sponsoring them for 3 years. So we build the crown, the Power of Unity crown. But we are in the very high end, and we do like to craft the extraordinary. That's our tagline, crafting the extraordinary. So procuring very fine diamonds in the rough, manufacturing them, designing the jewelry, and putting them in our own jewelry. So we go all the way from rough to jewelry and retail in our own stores. So it's an exciting journey.
It is. So now I see why your kids, obviously, your daughter will say, yes, the crown of Miss Universe, why not? Listen, if you could have a billboard with anything on it, what would it be and why?
It would inspire people to do good, to grow and help other people grow. A bit in the mission of YPO, but it would be a call for every single one of us to take responsibility, having a positive influence on the people around them. Because I do believe that if we all grow and we all learn together, we will have a greater impact on the world. So that's what I would say on that billboard.
So if we think about this, I would love to know, is that one thing that makes you feel inspired?
Possibilities. It's just whatever is possible inspires me. And vision inspires me. So it's always about creating something that has an impact for the future.
Very cool. Is there anything that people seem to misunderstand about you?
Yes, I think sometimes people may think I'm too serious. They may think there's no fun side to me. They may think I work all the time. Yes, I do work a lot, but I also clearly like having fun. I enjoy spending time with friends and just socializing and having a good time. One of my friends used to call me business monk. He said, Fred, you're a business monk. I think in my earlier days, I may have been a business monk, but now I'm a bit more balanced.
That's very good to hear. All right. So last question.
Sure.
If you could turn back the time and talk to your 18-year-old self, what advice would you tell him?
I would say to have the courage to move forward. You will make mistakes along the way, but keep on learning, keep on doing good, and just enjoy the journey, but always learn and always try to have a positive influence on the people around you. Just do good and move forward. Be resilient. If you fall, get back on your feet and keep on going, keep on moving ahead.
I love this. This has been a fantastic journey. Thank you, Fred, for being with us. And thank you for sharing with us all your insights.
Thank you very much, Diana.
Thank you for coming to our Leader of Leader podcast, brought to you by the YPO Leadership Development Network. My name is Diana Daniels, and I want to invite the rest of you to our next episode of Leaders right here. Stay tuned and see you soon.